Hello, this is the basic average Twit, and I'm back. You're gonna see a video get deleted here real soon because I was trying to do it in 1080p, 60 frames per second. My upload speed does not work that well, and it gets choppy and real terrible. So, we're gonna try it at 720p, which always seems to work great. Anyways, today's subject is gonna be about the Syria strikes and the possible outcome or endgame being possible World War III. I mean, is that what we're really going to? And it could be. I mean, that's maybe what's going on. So you have a lot of people that like Trump, voted for Trump for one very important, big, important reason, and that is he was against going into Syria, getting involved in a quagmire, and starting a possible war. People voted for that. That was a big part of why they voted for him. Now there's other reasons. He's a Republican. He's pro-life. He seemed like he was pro-cop, stuff like that. Things Republicans like, pro-Second Amendment. But there's a lot of Republicans and independents that are moving to non-interventionalism, and they looked at Trump and go, "Oh, finally! Now we got a guy that is a neoconservative, somebody that wants to get into war everywhere," which used to be more of like a liberal thing, where we would justify some sort of war or death or destruction to maybe clean out the area and resort to peace, which in reality has never proven to be true. It never works like that. Um, anyway, so the point being is that people did want Trump to win, and they were because of his stance about getting involved in everything like Iraq, like Libya even, which you oust the leader Gaddafi, and then you have a huge vacuum, and then Al Qaeda takes over. We got rid of Saddam Hussein, and even though we have some bases and whatnot, Iraq's pretty decent size. We can't control the whole area, and ISIS comes in and takes over areas of Iraq. And so what happens is then ISIS gets bigger, and we don't have the power or the money to sit there and just run the countries now. We try to give it back to the people, and it ends up ruthless killers of bands or a band of ruthless killers or people in ideological system where they control and want to run everything. I guess it overpowers people that just want to live a normal life, which always tends to be the case. Anyway, so Assad apparently uses chemical weapons against his own people, which a lot of people are going, I don't understand. I don't think that makes any sense. And it really doesn't, because if you listen to Rex Tillerson a week prior, he's talking about that they would keep Assad in, and there's no reason to get involved, and why not just be okay? And on top of it, it looked like Russia, along with America, were helping push back the bad rebels or the Al Qaeda, ISIS types, and it looks like they were winning. So for all of a sudden for Assad to attack his own people with chemical weapons, what is the strategy? Why would he do that? In fact, it makes zero sense on any level for him to do that unless somebody was trying to drag America into battle. Which, was it the rebels by themselves? Was it the good rebel groups? Was it the Al Qaeda groups? And to me, it feels like we fell for something hook, line, and sinker. The American people don't have the information presented to us that shows that Assad did use the chemical weapons himself. I'm assuming that somebody in President Trump's cabinet came to him and presented evidence. But what kind of evidence did he see? And how come we don't see it? I mean, if it's a clear cut and dry case, which can be presented to the public, it should be already. And then it'd make people at least understand a little bit better. Of course, I'm sure they would have the motivations and how they can prove why he did it. And if they don't, we might want to go evaluate what's going on and see if rebel groups are actually trying to get us involved. Because you see, if we get involved into a war, that takes away our resources, and it costs money and time and American soldiers' lives. And that actually is a strategy. That's what groups would do if they wanted to weaken America. They want to drag us into a war, and it's long and brutal, and people die, and money is spent, and then we don't have money, and we're wondering what we can do for infrastructure. We're trying to get people and have more jobs come here, and we're coming up short money. We can't pay back the the banks and whatnot that we have agreements with already. Our national debt is increasing, and things like this is pretty poor. And then you think of long term, like what happens? Are we still the reserve currency because of how much we've devalued our money worldwide? Does China keep buying our debt? And all those things factor into it. Why would we get into another big war? And it seems to me like neoconservatives definitely have an idea that getting Yemen and Syria, and people have always theorized it's for a certain pipeline, is the way to go, and it would give money, a lot more money to America. But at what cost? Reputation, the money for the wars just to get through, maintaining, if we're trying to maintain a pipeline. I mean, the money just to control the area. How much money is that pipeline going to bring anyways if it were to happen? With all the maintenance and control and wars that would still happen. I mean, people, Al-Qaeda, terrorist type groups would still be around. Do you think these little wars are going to wipe them out? These people are strong but still independent. Terrorism is a tactic. So as more people grow up and hate the United States, as we are there in the area maintaining pipelines, if we do so, those attacks will still be there. And then we got to do repair, and we got to fight them, and all this sort of stuff. But getting back to at least the Trump thing, what Trump did good, and some people talk about it's 4D chess. You have a lot of the mainstream media talking about how, well, listen, Russia is in collusion with Trump, and the reason they say that is because Russia and Assad are close, and Russia is trying to prop up and keep Assad in power and keep Syria not to fall into the hands of the rebels or the terrorists. More than likely is who it would fall into. Moderate rebels would go back to trying to be normal people, and the terrorists or the hardline fascist or Islamists would take over. Really, that's what happens when there's no leadership, and they would take over, and you'd have to convert to their religion, and it would be bad. And then the rebels would probably start trying to fight them again. But that little strike, some people say, is the attack on the airfield in Syria from Trump. Some people are saying that what he did is he did that to get mainstream media off his back about the Putin connections. He's trying to show force for Assad, so if he really did believe Assad did it, that, hey, don't use chemical weapons again, although America, we don't have any proof that that was actually the case. At least presented to us, we just have to take some senior official's word for it, and which never is a good thing. If it's solid proof, they go, here it is, dumbass, here's the proof, and we have it, and they could show you every little camera angle and the satellite images, and what they did testing on the ground to make sure that it was actually chemical grade and not just some kind of chlorine mix and homebrew and not actually that gas. Sarin gas is what they say was used. And then, so Trump maybe did this as a 4D chess move, meaning that he went and struck them to get the whole Russian thing off his back so they could try to move forward, but also look strong because a line was crossed, if you believe the fact that you think Assad really did it. And so then he looked stronger than Obama on the issue because Obama didn't attack. And by the way, a lot of that points to the fact the rebels did do the attack, not Assad. But if that is the case, then Trump looks stronger. He looks less likely that he's in collusion with Russia. And the only problem I have with that is I guess if there was real collusion with Russia, they wouldn't care, and they'd just be like, oh, good, well, now maybe the whole world grid off our back. But here's the thing. What's wrong with working with Russia anyways? Or the Chinese? It's very odd to see the mainstream media act like somebody's an isolationist, and then that person is saying, I want to work with the Chinese, I want to work with Russia, I want peace. Well, now how are you isolationist at all if that's the case? But it seems to me like there's kind of an agenda. The agenda is that Trump is bad and he'll never amount to anything good, and he's with Putin anyways. So 4D chess, he strikes this airfield. Now he's supposed to look good. Like, if you take a look at the big think tanks on the Democratic side, they're still saying Trump's no good and all this sort of stuff. Now, to me personally, I didn't like the strike. I wish Trump would have said no. And he would have said, let's set up and let's see who did it. And let's see what we have to do about this. And there should have been an independent investigation into what sort of gas there was, why they struck it, all that sort of stuff that goes into before you start showing a show of strength and wasting $50 million. Okay, war is on. We don't have long left. It's okay for the elites. They have bunkers. We don't. Oh, okay. Yeah, I mean, if you think like that, and people are saying that where Trump is staying, they have a bunker right underneath, so he could always go there. And you have people like, of course, Alex Jones for years has been talking about stuff like this, about people are leaving the country or they're buying their bunkers and all that. And there's actually proof that people are more interested in bunkers. There's like these resort type places where it's a bunker underground and they're nice and fancy underneath. Is that the actual case? Maybe. Maybe this was the plan all along. We get suckered into Trump. He tells us, hey, no war. And then he goes right into war mode. And it's like, okay, 2 months in, right into war mode, huh? And I don't know if that's going to be the case. I do feel like we could actually see war. I don't know if we're going to see World War III. I don't know if it's going to affect America. It would affect our economy. I don't know if we're going to see actual war here. But it's definitely troubling if you think about it along those lines. And I don't believe in the 4D chess where you try to do something. And so here's the thing with the 4D chess. Let's say Trump is just doing it to show a thing of force. Well, now when he backs off, the media and everybody, the neoconservatives, the higher up elites that are on the Democrat side, will still attack him, period, and say he's weak again. Or he didn't follow up. He didn't follow up with World War III. And you can already see that coming from even some magazines that used to be against war, from The Nation and stuff like that, talking about, like, we have to do this for this to get Russia off our back. And it's like, well, that's war talk. And clear as day, that sort of stuff would or possibly bring Russia into war or a confrontation, at least in Syria, which is going to be just terrible on us in our area. And it's going to affect our economy, and it's just the wrong way to do things. And there's not a lot more to say about this subject, really. I'm just going to be repeating myself at this point forward. I was going to keep this basic. But I will say that war is never a great answer. And I would prefer to see us invest, if we're going to take money from people already, and I lean a little more libertarian, but if we're going to take money from people already, I'd like to see it be invested back into America, and as opposed to being the policeman of the world. And there's terrible things that happen all over the world, period. But to sit there and spend all our money to fight all this stuff while we're having problems at home just doesn't make sense. I mean, can you imagine if your dad kept going out and kept spending all the money, as opposed to us having cable TV and enough food on the table and stuff like that? He's out spending all this money for all the other people around the neighborhood. And you're going, Dad, just focus on us, for fuck's sake. Please, right here first. And I think you really got to get your health at home and your health in America in order first. And then maybe we see what we can do to help the world and bring everything together. And I don't know if we have to do it from a governmental standpoint. If just the people, if I had more money, if all my neighbors had more money, if the country thrived, I think we would be able to, by ourselves, be able to help. We are altruistic, meaning that we would help other countries. We would give, we would buy, we would travel on vacation to different areas. That would give them an influx of money. And that's how the real world works. If we don't have money and we have nothing, that's just the government taking from us and then policing the world. What if we just had our own independent income? Through us, we got wealthy. The smallest, the most poorest people in America, wealthy enough to travel and spend their money in other countries. That money coming to other countries elevates their economy, gives them stuff to do, stuff to work for, and it elevates their economy. And so if you have a strong house in order, if you focused on yourself, you can then go out and help other people, as opposed to being the policeman of the world and taking our money for taxes and just throwing it at dictators and hoping that they give it to their people. It just never works. There will be a war with North Korea. It could be, and who knows what. The Chinese leader was just talking to Trump. They just had a meeting, and maybe they said, go ahead, you deal with North Korea, we'll stay out of it. I don't know we don't know what happened in that situation, but I almost feel like China would side with North Korea anyways, and that's kind of a problem. And they might say, hey, just to lull Trump into something, hey, we'll back off, and then we get involved, and then China's helping North Korea and trying to drag us down, and that which wouldn't help us at all. And I do feel like there's enough people writing about Trump that are the elites through the Council of Foreign Relations and other think tanks that don't like him, that and I think they have enough business and whatnot in these countries like China that if they thought they could expose Trump to get in all these different wars and take down America just enough that we can oust Trump and then get back in a regular type of Council on Foreign Relations puppet or whoever would do the bidding, get us in these trade deals to lock all the regular people out, but let the big corporations run ramshot over us and be able to control every little economic thing that we can't do. And their idea of free trade is they can work with any international body, but we cannot. And it's just a free open access to them, whereas we don't. We still have the 30% tax rate and all that sort of stuff that hits the small mom and pop businesses. But I'm going to end this right now. I'm just a babbling idiot talking about politics, anything that I've read. I don't sit here and back it up with facts. I just try to have a normal conversation. Of course, there's only so many people watching, but it's good to see you in here, Christopher. You're the only person talking to me. But I'm going to cut it, and maybe next time we'll talk more about anything going on geopolitically.